Well, it might have taken me a little over 2 months, but last night it finally went to be about $5 on Amazon Prime for renting. I decided to put myself to the test. I watched The Substance. And in this video, we're going to be doing a quick non-spoiler for anybody who's a channel follower that wants to get my rating and thoughts on the movie in a non-spoiler way. And then we'll go a little bit into spoilers because this movie has a lot to talk about. And let's just get into it. Let's talk about The Substance. Yes, I didn't see this one in theaters despite some positive reviews, despite some very strong word of mouth, because I am not a fan of body horror. And part of me loves the fact that I didn't see this in theaters because of that, but other part of me feels like the cinematic experience would have added so much more than watching at home on my couch, where I still have a decent sound system and stuff, but The Substance is a movie that is nothing like you'll ever see the rest of this year. It is funny at parts. It is extremely difficult to watch if you're squeamish and tough with body horror and stuff like that, needles and blood and just type body horror. But the movie is just so expertly done through almost the whole entire runtime. This director here on her second film really went into this movie with a lot of different messages that it wants to tell. Nothing more, I feel, than, the ageism against women in Hollywood, as well as the effects of negative body imaging that we have in our society, at least in America. And she got that point down expertly, and the way this movie was crafted, whether it be the camera angles, whether it be the sound design, whether it be the cinematography, the score alone is extremely impressive and very unique and very daring in a way that this is not your normal type of movie. It feels very, very itself and different, original, you would want to say. But also, you have two acting performances, almost three acting performances, that are just jumping off the screen amazing, that are impressive on all different levels. Demi Moore as Elizabeth Sparkle, Margaret Qualley as Sue, and Dennis Quaid as who ends up kind of being both of their bosses throughout the movie, really deliver all award level type acting, especially Demi Moore. Demi Moore is likely going to be nominated for an Oscar, and there's a chance that once she's nominated, people might see this movie and really go, you know what? Maybe she deserves that Oscar. I haven't had a person I've been thinking about that for Best Actress against Mikey Madison all year, but Demi Moore is putting that thought in my head of wondering where is she going to rank and how impressive this role was for her. There's a lot of makeup and prosthetics throughout. There is a lot of just jaw-dropping and uncomfortable moments. But this movie was just telling a very, very concise story. It wasn't trying to go too big in the details. It was focusing you on Demi Moore's character, Elizabeth Sparkle, and her experience with The Substance after being, fired from her aerobics job for being too old. And without going into anything else, I'm just going to sit here and say The Substance for me got a clean diamond. If I had any complaints, I do think it ran long, and the third act might have been a little bit, that final act might have been a little bit too much and drawn out. But I'm not going to deny everything else that was crafted with this movie. Went from being probably my top one or two movie of the year to a little bit further down on my diamond rankings, but that still doesn't deny the extremely top level acting from both Margaret Qualley and especially Demi Moore. And if you're somebody who's interested in what this movie is about and you're going to be okay to watch with the body horror elements, of very graphic elements, there's nudity involved here, stuff like that, I highly recommend you give The Substance a chance, because this is the type of movie that you want to see filmmakers, I feel, make and take risks in Hollywood. Whether you end up liking it or not fully as much as I do, I appreciate the effort everybody on this team did to make this movie come through. But now let's go ahead and talk spoilers. Holy shit. That is my 2-word review of The Substance. I knew this was going to be a body horror. I knew the acting from Demi Moore was going to be great. I might not have known how much nudity was involved for both Margaret Qualley and Demi Moore, but the visuals of this movie were haunting for me as somebody who hates body horror. Sitting there with my pillow over my face, kind of watching some elements. You know when Margaret Qualley gets birthed from her back as Sue. I think this movie just did an amazing job telling the story of the this younger self Sue, achieving everything she had and gaining her own personality and losing what the point of The Substance was, which was to be one person, Elizabeth and Sue, that, the drive to be younger self, the drive to be successful again, all that was so addicting that Sue became her own personality that ate Elizabeth up. And that visual as Elizabeth starts aging, the makeup in this movie is absolutely just jaw-dropping and great. And seeing Elizabeth, become, and Demi Moore become this old hag type character at the end before we get into the third act was just amazing work that should be nominated for Oscars and probably should win the Oscar, in my opinion, for makeup and hairstyling. Her, terminating and wanting to beat down Margaret Qualley Sue, who at that point had decided to take out all the spinal tap fluid to keep herself going young for many years, because even though you took out, it was one of those, you took the life out of yourself, you decided to take your life and energy out of your body and turn it into a younger self, left a shell of a person in your regular body that was suppressed, that didn't know what to do. Elizabeth post The Substance, not going out and just having a full breakdown moment in the mirror with her makeup and everything was just so well done, so well shot. The editing of this movie was giving so many unique shots and was giving so much to see that the pacing up until the end felt very good. My only issue was, I think, that third act where we get into the blob creature went a little bit too far and left a little bit the plane. I know it's weird to say plane of reality. We had somebody birth somebody else, but how did this monster, Eliza Sue's creature, make their way all the way to the New Year's Eve show without anybody noticing or stopping them in Los Angeles, of all places? And the blooded visuals, again, maybe because I'm not the big horror person, I'm not the big body horror person, that felt like too much to me, because I'm squeamish about blood. But for so much of this movie, the back and forth between Qualley and Elizabeth, I thought just told the expert story of of hating yourself whenever you're chasing something, you could be hating yourself. There's so many messages in this movie. There's messages of, having to follow rules and fit in society's box, and what happens to you when you break those rules, per se, and the harm that you do. You have just the way the movie is being shot, especially of Margaret Qualley's character, and of what people would assume is a horny male gaze, but this is done by a woman who I think is trying to show this is the expectations for a lot of young females, whether it's in Hollywood, whether it's on YouTube, whether it's on TikTok, Instagram. If a young media presence is expected to sexualize their body for improvement and achievement in their space. I just thought this movie was so thought-productive, was so well put together. Everybody from the acting, everybody from the makeup, everybody from anything involved with this movie was so on board with this absurd reality idea, this crazy narrative and thought story being pushed. Nobody felt like they were out of this movie, and nobody felt like they could ever be in another movie character wise like this. And it's just extremely impressive, and it's something that, I know people who've watched The Substance have been giving it praise, but I now understand that praise. The script might not be my favorite. I'm kind of surprised a bit it did win screenplay at Cannes Film Festival, because I do think there's a myriad of plot holes in the beginning of this movie and maybe towards the end of this movie that can turn people off. But once you get to the main juice of the movie, once you really get into the feelings of the movie with Demi Moore, with Margaret Qualley, once you see the journey this individual in two parts has taken themselves on, you truly understand the greatness of the movie. I think the greatness is more in the direction, in the film editing, in the acting, and set design. Maybe not set design as much, but set design and prop design and hair and makeup, and not as fully as much as the writing. But this is one of my favorite films of the year. I don't know if I'm ever going to watch it that much again because I hate body horror, but I was just wowed by The Substance. And, visually, the blob at the end, like I said, it went a little bit long, but the highs of The Substance are some of the highest of highs of any movie achieved this year. And I can't think of a movie that I've seen in a while where it was unapologetically itself. It wasn't fitting any type of Hollywood norm. It wasn't fitting any type of expected box to be checked into. There was no notes given to the director. The director had a vision that she shared with her team, and that team brought that vision to the screen in an impressive and immaculate way. And that, vision did sit well with me for a lot of it. Well, sit well, but also disturbed and haunts me for most of it. But this is a type of movie work in Hollywood that we don't see as much anymore. And it's why The Substance got that diamond from me, because it was able to successfully be this ambitious thing and do it very, very well, in my opinion. Again, I know nudity, I know the blood will turn people off, but I didn't think the nudity was as bad as it could have been, and just the pure level of artistry from direction to acting to hair and makeup to production design to the editing down and to even the sound was just so uniquely, expertly all together on the same page done that I will always be thinking about The Substance when it comes to horror movies that I feel were the best of all time. Because this was an experience, and I don't know when I'll get an experience quite so vivid in a movie again, but hopefully it won't have to wait too many years. But yeah, tell me your thoughts on The Substance in the comments down below. And we'll see where it places in my end of the year rankings and what awards it might nominate it for my Joshkers, which is at the beginning of January 1st. I always do my best of the previous year Joshkers, my version of the Oscars, and something tells me we're going to see a Substance in quite a few places. But yeah, The Substance.